Well, okay, House Republicans, as advertised, are putting together a plan, hopefully, that'll stop Biden's war on American energy, or at least give us some permitting relief and reopen the spigots. Here to talk about it, Washington Congresswoman Cathy McMorris Rodgers, now the chair of the House Energy and Commerce Committee. Chairwoman Rodgers, it is a pleasure. Thank you for coming on the show again.
Great to be with you. Really excited to be chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee in the House.
I was going to say it's got a nice ring to it. That whole title thing now, it's got a very, very nice ring to it. So, Madam Chairwoman, give us a suggestion here. Permitting reform. This sounds like maybe the Kudlow H.R. 1 or H.R. 2 is still alive and well, and we're going to reopen the spigots, which would get inflation way down and economic growth way up. I know you're still in process of doing this, but maybe you can give us a couple of general points.
For sure. We must reverse President Biden's war on American energy. And even this week in committee, we've started the process. We have several bills that we voted on in the subcommittee. We're going to be bringing them forward. Our goal is to have at least a very significant down payment on the House floor at the end of this month. We want to get this out of the House to unleash American energy. And as you said, it's just so foundational to our economy. It's our geopolitical standing, our leadership. And we want to bring down gas prices, secure our supply chains. So the legislation that we're working on, it does include some of the permitting reform. We are desperate for permitting reform in the United States. It's the #1 barrier to getting anything done, manufacturing, let alone drilling or refining or processing. We have a permitting and regulatory climate right now that is the #1 barrier to getting anything done. So we have legislation that would address permitting for pipelines. We want to export LNG, that's liquefied natural gas, to our partners and allies around the world. It's really natural gas and the shale revolution in the United States of America that has brought down prices for natural gas, but also led the country in bringing down carbon emissions. We have legislation that would express our disapproval when the president shut down the Keystone pipeline. We would prevent the president from putting a moratorium on fracking. But ultimately, we must reform the permitting process and flip the switch on American energy, get us energy independent again.
You know, on this whole, I mean, I couldn't agree more. The permitting is so central to this. We had in the Trump administration, I mean, again, I'm not campaigning for anybody's presidency. I'm just saying this is what the policy was. The NEPA reforms, which took down timetables to 2 years or less, if you recall. And we had this idea of one federal decision, which simplified and brought all the agencies together. A lot of that stuff was done under the NEC that I worked on. That's all gone. I mean, we just had Kevin O'Leary, who's a brilliant investor who loves the energy sector. But the first thing he said about it is we've got to get rid of these regulations blocking permits. And Cathy, you know what? Just as an add-on, here's the irony. The lack of permitting reform, or the fact that Biden rolled back Trump's permitting reform, is actually stopping renewables. It's stopping going after the minerals necessary for the battery-driven cars, for example. I mean, the greenies are doing themselves great harm by all these permitting barriers. I mean, it's not just fossil fuels. They're hurting themselves. Maybe that's what they want. I don't get it.
Yeah, well, it's difficult to understand. I completely agree. Our permitting, so we're working with other committees in the House. It's going to be a larger package. But the permitting reforms that we are proposing, we're actually being told right now that it's going to increase the deficit because the money that was put in the infrastructure package and the Democrats have put forward in the omnibus for these projects, a lot of the battery manufacturing and the pots of money for promoting these green energy projects, the money wouldn't be within the budget window because the permitting takes so long. So we usually budget in a 10-year budget window, and they're saying that, well, because the permitting takes so long in the United States, these projects aren't going to be made until way out in the future. So therefore, if you speed up permitting, it's going to mean it's going to increase the deficit. You know, it's like this is so crazy. So we need to reduce those timelines, whether it's a solar plant or a pipeline or whatever the project may be, expanding refining capacity. We must reduce the timeline so that we can actually get projects built, get manufacturing going in the United States, unleash American energy. And it's the best thing that we can do to bring down the price of gas, secure our supply chain so that we're not dependent upon China for the critical minerals, for the supply chains related to renewables that we are right now, and help our partners and allies around the world.
So, I mean, I don't understand that argument. If you get your permitting reform and people go ahead with these various projects, whether they're fossil projects or renewable projects, you'll get, I don't know, more jobs, more income at the same tax rate. You'll have more revenues. I mean, growth always reduces budget deficits. It's recessions that increase budget deficits. So I don't understand that argument at all. Cathy, let me ask you one last thing. We had Governor Mike Dunleavy on from Alaska last night. He's still not sure whether they're going to let him open up the Willow Reservoir up there in Alaska. And the Department of Interior, Ms. Secretary Howland, doesn't talk to him. You know anything about that? You're out there on the West Coast someplace. What do you know about Willow? Is it going to go through?
Well, what I know is that the agency directors have to come in front of these committees. We are bringing in the agencies of jurisdiction, the secretaries that for the last 2 years have been protected by the Democrats in the majority. And so we will be having these secretaries come in, whether in our committee it's energy and FERC and these agencies that are making these decisions, Interior. And we'll be able to ask them the questions, and that's fundamental to our role as the elected representatives of the people, to provide that oversight, to bring in the agencies, to ask them the questions, and that is what's happening because the Republicans have the majority in the House now.
And you got the power of the purse to enforce this stuff.
That's right. So it's oversight and power of the purse. And so when these agencies do not cooperate, then we can exercise the power of the purse and ultimately cut their budgets. And we're working very closely with the Appropriations Committee. We must, as the elected representatives of the people, this is pretty fundamental. Article 1, exercise the power of the purse and provide that oversight. So many of these agencies are implementing their own political agenda. They're political appointees by the president, and they're implementing his agenda. Right now, it's pretty radical when it comes to shutting down American energy or stopping projects, shutting down projects, whether it's in Alaska or mining projects across the country. And we are bringing them in. We're going to hold them accountable and get them back to the task of what they're supposed to be doing within the law and also for the American people.
All right. Madam Chairwoman Cathy McMorris Rodgers, thank you ever so much. Hope to talk soon. Good luck on the bill.